The humid air of Celestara clung to Marcus Webb's skin as he wiped his forehead with the back of his grease-stained hand. The atmospheric processor before him hummed with an unhealthy, rattling sound that had brought him halfway across the sector to this verdant planet. At 28, Marcus had built a reputation as the mechanic who could fix anything, which meant he spent more time on alien worlds than in his own bed back on New Providence. Celestara was beautiful, he had to admit. The planet's 3 moons created perpetual twilight in certain regions, and the native Celestarans had built their civilization to harmonize with the natural bioluminescence of the flora. Their cities glowed softly at night, powered not by harsh artificial lights, but by carefully cultivated plants that pulsed with gentle radiance. Marcus turned back to the processor, adjusting his sonic wrench to the correct frequency. The Celestaran Trade Council had hired him to repair their main atmospheric regulation system before the rainy season began. It was good money, and the work kept his mind busy, which was exactly what he needed after his engagement back home had fallen apart 6 months ago. "What are you doing?" A small voice asked from behind him. Marcus turned to find a Celestaran child watching him with wide, curious eyes. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old by human standards, though he knew Celestarans age differently. Her skin had the characteristic pale blue tint of her species, and delicate bioluminescent markings traced patterns along her arms and face marks that would grow more complex as she matured. Her dark hair was pulled back in an intricate braid, and she wore a simple tunic in shades of silver and white. "I'm fixing this machine," Marcus explained, kneeling down to her level. "It helps keep the air clean and comfortable for everyone in the city. See this part here?" He pointed to an exposed panel. "It's not spinning the way it should." The girl stepped closer, peering at the machinery with intense focus. "You're human," she observed, not as a question, but as a statement of fascination. "That's right. My name is Marcus." "What's yours?" "Nira," she replied, her luminescent markings flickering slightly, a sign of excitement, Marcus had learned. "I've never met a human before. Father says humans are good at fixing things that are broken." Marcus smiled. "Well, I certainly try." "What does your father do?" "He works with the Trade Council." "He's very important." She said it matter-of-factly, without boasting. "But he doesn't fix things with his hands like you do. He just talks in meetings." "Talking in meetings is important too," Marcus said diplomatically, though he privately agreed that working with his hands was far more satisfying than most office work. Nira watched him work for several minutes in companionable silence. Marcus found himself explaining what he was doing, more to fill the quiet than because he expected her to understand. But to his surprise, she asked intelligent questions, her young mind grasping concepts more quickly than some of his adult apprentices. "Why do you work alone?" Nira asked eventually. "Don't humans have families?" The question struck closer than Marcus would have liked. "Some do. I'm just not married yet." "Why not?" Marcus chuckled at her directness. "It's complicated. Sometimes 2 people think they want to be together, but then they realize they don't fit as well as they thought." Nira frowned, her markings dimming slightly. "That sounds sad." "Sometimes it is," Marcus admitted. "But it's better to know before you make a lifetime promise to someone." The girl was quiet for a moment, processing this. Then she looked up at him with startling intensity. "When I grow up, I'm going to marry someone who fixes things. Someone kind, like you." Marcus felt his chest tighten at the innocent declaration. "Is that so?" "Yes," Nira nodded firmly. "Someone who explains things and doesn't mind questions. Someone who works with their hands and makes broken things whole again." She paused, then added with the absolute certainty only a child could possess. "Someone exactly like you." The sincerity in her voice made Marcus's throat constrict. Here was this small being, looking at him like he represented something wonderful, when he felt anything but wonderful most days. He thought about his failed engagement, about Jennifer's words echoing in his memory. "You care more about machines than people, Marcus. You're never really present." "Well," Marcus said gently, reaching out to tap Nira's nose in a playful gesture, "if you're still looking for someone like me when you're all grown up, and I haven't found someone by then, maybe I'll marry you. How about that?" Nira's entire face lit up, her bioluminescent markings blazing with joy. "You promise?" Marcus laughed, charmed by her enthusiasm. "Sure, I promise. When you're grown up and ready to get married, if you still remember me, you come find me and we'll see about making that happen." "I'll remember," Nira said solemnly, as if he'd just sworn a sacred oath rather than humoring a child's fancy. "I'll remember everything about today. And when I'm grown, I'll come find you, Marcus Webb." "Nira." A voice called from the direction of the nearby buildings. "Nira, where are you?" "That's my brother," Nira said, glancing over her shoulder. She looked back at Marcus with determination far beyond her years. "I have to go, but I won't forget, Marcus. I promise I won't forget." Before he could respond, she darted away, her small form disappearing between the glowing vegetation that lined the pathways. Marcus watched her go, shaking his head with amusement. Children and their wild imaginations, human or alien, some things were universal. He turned back to his work, dismissing the encounter as a brief, pleasant distraction. Within minutes, he was absorbed again in the rhythm of repairs, the conversation already fading into the background of his mind, like so many other fleeting interactions in his nomadic work life. Marcus finished the atmospheric processor as the first of Celestaras. 3 moons rose above the horizon, bathing the city in silver light. He packed his tools, filed his completion report, and collected his payment from the Trade Council representative. Within 2 days, he was off-planet, heading to his next job on a mining station 3 systems away. He never gave young Nira another thought. 10 years passed in the way time does for those who live without putting down roots. Marcus moved from contract to contract, planet to planet, building his reputation and his savings. He turned 30, then 35. Somewhere along the way, he stopped thinking about settling down, about finding someone to share his life with. The work was enough. The stars were enough. Until the day a woman with bioluminescent markings walked into his workshop on New Providence, looked at him with eyes that held a decade of determination, and said 4 words that would change everything. "I've come to marry you." Marcus had finally done it. After a decade of wandering from contract to contract, he'd established his own business on New Providence, one of humanity's most stable colonies. Webb Technical Solutions occupied a modest but well-equipped workshop in the industrial quarter. And for the first time in his adult life, Marcus had something resembling roots. At 38, he'd settled into a comfortable routine. His business thrived on referrals from satisfied clients, and he'd even hired 2 apprentices to help with the workload. The workshop smelled perpetually of machine oil and ozone, the walls lined with tools and half-repaired equipment. It wasn't glamorous, but it was his. Marcus was elbow-deep in a malfunctioning gravity regulator when the door chimed, announcing a visitor. Without looking up, he called out, "Be with you in a minute. Just need to realign this coupling." "Take your time," a melodic voice responded. "I've waited 10 years. A few more minutes won't matter." Something in that voice made Marcus freeze. The accent was distinctly Celestaran. He'd recognized that lyrical quality anywhere. But it was the words themselves that sent a chill down his spine. He extracted himself from the machine and turned around, wiping his hands on a rag. Standing in his doorway was a Celestaran woman who took his breath away. She stood tall and graceful, her pale blue skin seeming to glow in the workshop's fluorescent lighting. Her bioluminescent markings had matured into intricate patterns that traced elegant lines along her neck, arms, and what he could see of her collarbone above her fitted burgundy tunic. Her dark hair fell in waves past her shoulders, and her eyes, those striking violet eyes, held an unsettling mixture of nervousness and determination. "I'm sorry," Marcus said slowly, his mind racing. "Do I know you?" The woman stepped further into the workshop, and he noticed she moved with absolute confidence, despite the anxiety he'd glimpsed in her expression. "You made me a promise 10 years ago, Marcus Webb. I've come to see it fulfilled." The memory hit him like a physical blow. A child in a glowing city. An innocent conversation. A playful promise made to humor a young girl's declaration. "Nira?" he whispered, disbelief coloring his voice. Her luminescent markings brightened, pulsing with what he now recognized as pleasure. "You remember?" Yes, but Marcus struggled to find words. "You were a child. I was just being kind. You can't possibly think I meant. On Celestara, promises made to children are considered sacred," Nira interrupted gently but firmly. "Especially promises of marriage. They're seen as pure intentions, untainted by adult complications or ulterior motives." Marcus set down his tools, his mind reeling. "Nira, I was joking. Playing along with a kid's fantasy. Surely you understand that?" "I understand human customs quite well now," Nira said, moving closer. "I've spent the last 5 years studying your culture, your language. I'm speaking to you now without a translator, Marcus. I've learned your customs of courtship, your foods, even your entertainment. I've prepared for this." "Prepared for what, exactly?" Marcus asked, though he was afraid he knew the answer. "To become your wife." She said it simply, as if discussing the weather. "As you promised you would when I was grown." A sound at the door made them both turn. A Celestaran male stood in the entrance, taller and broader than Nira, his markings darker and more aggressive in their patterns. His expression was stern, almost hostile. "This is my brother, Jeevan," Nira said quickly, sensing the tension. "He insisted on accompanying me." "To make sure this human honors his word," Jeevan said, his voice carrying an edge that made Marcus's spine stiffen. "Or to bring my sister home if he proves to be without integrity." "Now wait a minute," Marcus began. "No, you wait," Jeevan interrupted, stepping into the workshop. "Do you have any idea what this promise has meant to my sister? To my family? When a Celestaran declares their intent to marry, especially when that intent is acknowledged and accepted as yours was, it becomes a matter of family honor. Nira has turned away every suitor, every opportunity, because of her bond to you." Guilt crashed over Marcus like a wave. "I never intended. Intent matters less than action," Jeevan said coldly. "You made a vow to a child, perhaps carelessly, but you made it nonetheless. In our culture, that carries weight." Nira placed a hand on her brother's arm, her markings flickering in a pattern that seemed to communicate something between them. "Jeevan, please. This isn't helping." She turned back to Marcus, and he saw something in her eyes that went beyond cultural obligation. There was hope there, and vulnerability, and something else he couldn't quite name. "Marcus," she said softly, "I'm not here to trap you or force you into something you don't want. But I am asking you to honor the spirit of what you promised, if not the letter of it." "What does that mean?" Marcus asked warily. "Give me a chance," Nira said simply. "Let me prove to you that I'm not just some child chasing a fantasy. I'm a grown woman who has made informed choices about what I want and who I want. And I want to know if what I've believed all these years could actually be real." Marcus ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Nira remembered from a decade ago, a sign that he was overwhelmed. "This is insane. We don't know each other. You've built up this idea of me in your head, but I'm just a mechanic. I'm not some romantic hero from a story. I know exactly who you are, Nira countered. I've followed your career, Marcus. I know about your reputation for honest work. I know you walked away from a lucrative contract 2 years ago because the client wanted you to cut safety corners. I know you took on 3 apprentices from disadvantaged backgrounds and trained them for free. Her markings pulsed brighter. I know the man you are, not just the memory of the man I met. Marcus felt exposed, vulnerable in a way he hadn't experienced since Jennifer left. You researched me? I prepared, Nira corrected. Because this matters to me. Because you matter to me, even if you don't understand why yet. Jeevan shifted impatiently. Sister, if he's going to refuse, let him do so clearly. We can return home with our dignity intact. I'm not refusing, Marcus heard himself say, surprising even himself. Both Celestarans looked at him sharply. I'm just processing. He looked at Nira, really looked at her. She was beautiful, yes, but beyond that, there was an intelligence in her eyes, a determination that reminded him of himself when he'd first struck out on his own. She'd crossed star systems to honor something most people would have dismissed as childhood nonsense. That took courage. What exactly are you proposing? Marcus asked carefully. Nira's face lit up, her markings dancing with barely contained excitement. A trial period. In Shelistaran culture, we have what's called the proving time, a span of 30 days where 2 people live and work alongside each other to determine compatibility. At the end, either party can walk away, no obligation, no dishonor. 30 days, Marcus repeated. I would stay here on New Providence, Nira continued. Untrained as an environmental systems specialist, I could even help with your work if you'd allow it. We'd spend time together, learn about each other. If at the end you feel nothing, if you truly believe we're incompatible, I'll return to Celestara and release you from the promise. And if I refuse this trial period? Marcus asked, though he already knew he wouldn't. Jevon's markings darkened. Then you prove yourself a man without honor, and word will spread throughout the Shelistaran community. Given how much of your business comes from our people's contracts, Jeevan, Nira snapped, her own markings flashing with anger. That's not why I'm here, and you know it. But it is the reality, Jeevan said, unapologetic. Actions have consequences, especially broken promises. Marcus wanted to be angry at the implicit threat, but he understood it. If he'd made a sacred vow in Shelistaran culture, then dismissed it as meaningless, it would damage more than just his reputation. It would harm relationships between humans and Celestarans in this sector. But beyond the politics, beyond the cultural obligations, Marcus found himself genuinely curious. Nira had traveled across the stars for him. She'd spent years preparing for this moment. What kind of person did that? 30 days, Marcus said finally. But we do this properly. You'll stay at the residential hotel 2 blocks from here, not with me. We'll spend time together, yes, but with boundaries. And at the end, we both get an equal say in what happens next. Nira's smile could have powered the entire workshop. Agreed. Jeevan still looked skeptical, but he nodded curtly. I'll remain on New Providence for the duration to ensure my sister's well-being. Protective older brother, Marcus said. I can respect that. See that you continue to respect it, Jeevan replied, but his tone had softened slightly. As the 2 Celestarans left to arrange accommodations, Marcus sank into his work chair, staring at the half-repaired gravity regulator without really seeing it. What had he just agreed to? 30 days with a woman who believed they were destined to be together, based on a careless promise he'd made a decade ago. The rational part of his brain screamed that this was madness. But another part, a part that had been dormant for years, whispered something different. It whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was exactly the kind of unexpected adventure his carefully ordered life needed. Marcus picked up his tools and returned to work. But his mind was elsewhere, already counting down to tomorrow when his trial period with Nira would begin. For the first time in years, he felt something that had been missing from his comfortable routine. He felt alive.